Time's up, Admiral.
Here it comes.
Chevron 1, coded.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry havoc, and let's set the tongues of war.
Chevron 2 is coded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of your women.
It's all in the reflexes.
I'll also say that you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that killer stuff.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Not for while you can, look, boy.
Great Scott.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass! I thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf.
What about side by side with a friend?
The day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.
Hail and howdy, everybody. Welcome back to Saturday Night Drive-In, where we have engaging discussions, where we watch movies and talk about things in a respectful way, because I think it's one of those times tonight, because we were watching this movie almost at the same time yesterday, and we're going to have differing opinions. But I can still be objective with my opinion. I still can, because I did watch objectively, even though I was bored out of my mind. All right, we'll get into it. Hi, Jed. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Today and yesterday, I got the chance to watch a fantastic movie. Yes, fuck you. This movie is great. I got to watch some great Star Trek. Just started season 2 of TNG.
Yeah.
Just started the Sherlock episode. I was nearly going into the Sherlock episode before I had to come do this show. So disappointed about that. And playing some Witcher 3. I'm just crossing off all the great things to watch and do right now.
You're having more fun than I am right now.
I'm having quite a bit of fun. I don't have to watch all the horrible stuff that you do. The only thing horrible I'm watching right now is Alien Earth.
In my defense, I was watching anime all afternoon, so I was having a nice, comfortable afternoon. But you are having more fun. I mean, yeah, you're getting to Data plays Sherlock Holmes episode. See, while that's a fantastic episode because it's just Moriarty, the problem is while it's a great episode, that's an example to me of something TNG had a lot of good opportunity to do, sometimes didn't do. That should have just been a day in the life, slice of life episode where nothing bad happened. It should have just been an amusing episode of Data being Sherlock Holmes instead of turning it into a crisis episode with Moriarty taking over the Enterprise.
You can build up to Moriarty in a subsequent episode, I think, but in this one, we've got these great slice of lives, and it's disappointing. I do agree. I haven't gotten that far into the episode. They're on their way to the holodeck where I stopped watching, so they hadn't.
You get that feeling. It starts off it's like, yo, man, they're just gonna have some fun, but no, we're going to do Star Trek, what Star Trek does, and turn something into a crisis for the ship, which is fine.
The holodeck goes wrong so many times. They shouldn't have it. I'm gonna be honest. I love the holodeck, but it nearly kills them at least once a season.
I would love the holodeck. I don't know if I'd have a holodeck addiction, but I'd spend my downtime there. Oh, I'm terrible.
Go full Barkley?
Not full. Well, okay.
Never go full Barkley.
No, I wouldn't go full Barkley because I wouldn't be using people I knew. It would be imaginary waifus and stuff like that.
Fictional
it would
characters.
Fictional characters based on stuff. I would not be scanning my coworkers and putting them into my holodeck fantasies. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not going full Barkley, but I would take advantage of it. Riker almost did. Season 1, Minuet. Riker was all ready to dive into Minuet when we got introduced to the holodeck in that episode. So, I mean,
he was getting ready, yeah.
He was ready. So listen,
have you
Riker
ever seen
could
the
do
Orville?
it, so can I. The Oracle?
The Orville?
Orville? No, I have not. No, I have no interest in Seth MacFarlane. I despise him. I can't watch
it's the best Star Trek we've gotten since Voyager. I think it's better than Enterprise, but it's right up there. And there's an episode with the holodeck where one of the characters, Bortus, is using the holodeck like Barkley, and he downloads an illegal torrent, basically, version of a holodeck program that turns out to be porn, and a virus takes over the ship and tries to kill them. It's great.
See, that's the thing. There aren't nothing to download in Star Trek. It's just the computer has it and can construct on anything.
Well, it's somebody else makes it for them, just like a book. There are in Star Trek. There are still holodeck programs. There are holodeck
holosuite programs. The holodeck doesn't have that. Quark's holosuites on DS9, that is installed programs. That's different. Holosuites and holodecks are two different things technically. Holodeck is much less powerful than a holosuite. Holosuites are much more powerful. But that's a Star Trek discussion. We're going to talk something else science fiction today. We're going to talk Ex Machina, a movie that I knew about but never cared about. I knew it existed, didn't know who was in it, and just kind of moved right by it because, let's be honest, if there is something that came out in the past literally 4 or 5 years, I usually don't pay attention because I'm usually just not interested. That's like my default setting these days.
It's a little older than that, but I see your point.
You know what I mean? Like past several years. And and I'm not saying that I'm not interested because it's woke or anything like that. No, I will be very objective about this movie as we discuss it. My subjectivity will come in, of course, because it's me, it will weigh in my score a little bit. But objectively, I can be objective about the good points of this movie because there are objectively good points about it. So, but hail howdy, everybody in the chat. I hope you guys are having a good Saturday. And listen, I've already watched Anime Odyssey. I talk about my favorite waifus on Anime Odyssey all the time. I would program my favorite waifus into the holodeck, and they would look like their animated version. They wouldn't be like 3D real person. They would be the animated versions because it's a fantasy. And if I'm going to live out my fantasy, I'm going to live out my goddamn fantasy. It's what it is. All right.
I'm surprised we didn't get anything like that from Star Trek. I could see Barkley having a weird like Wile E. Coyote addiction or something like that, and doing a Wile E. Coyote animated style episode. I think that would be kind of funny.
Yeah, well, I think that's because again, we're sidetracking. God damn it.
Probably limitations of the technology and budget.
Not so much that. I think this is late 80s, early 90s. I don't think anybody would have even the type of nerds writing Star Trek were not weebs. Weebs was kind of a new thing still. And they wouldn't occur to them to bring in a cartoon character and leave it appearing like that. They get a little close to it in Voyager when they have Tom and Harry's little adventures in retro science fiction where it's all black and white in there and stuff like that. But that's about as close as they get. I don't think they didn't get the advice of weebs because listen, if I'm going to go in a holodeck, I'm going to weeb it up, man. Weeb it up. Anime fantasy girls all the way, waifus, harem of my favorite waifus. I'm not gonna lie. Listen. I've never lied that I love boobs, and boobs of all kinds. Boobs. Anyway, there were boobs in this movie.
There were quite a few of them. Not as much as I
towards
remember,
the end.
though.
Towards the end, there were boobs. It was towards the end, and a couple of them were disturbing. Anyway, Jed, this was your choice this week, so why don't you walk us into it?
Perfect. So yeah, this is the A24 film, and partially I decided to do it because we're very close to the 10th anniversary of this film, so it felt poignant as much as anything else. But the film follows a normal computer programmer at basically a Google stand-in who wins a competition to visit the CEO in a remote laboratory. He doesn't know it's a laboratory at first, and his job is to conduct a Turing test on a new artificially intelligent android. And that's most of the film, is him trying to decide whether or not this android passes the Turing test. And for those who aren't familiar with the Turing test, it's a real life thing. It was developed in the 1970s, I believe. It's a test to determine whether or not an artificial intelligence or a computer is alive. The way you're supposed to do it is have a person with basically 2 keyboards, 2 monitors, talking with a real life person on one monitor and a computer on the other monitor. And this person needs to be able to tell which one's the computer, which one's the real life person. And there's variations on it, but it is inherently flawed. So I don't know if you know any of this backstory, Adam, but the Turing test, again, it's a very real thing. And up until 2014, no computer has ever come close to passing it. There's a 2014 example of one who did, but it delves into the problems of the Turing test that they address in the film. And I love how they address the Turing test, because the Turing test, I believe, is inherently flawed because, as they mention in one of the scenes, is it simulation or is it manifestation? Are they just programmed super well to imitate, to simulate human behavior, or are they legitimately alive? And that's why Nathan morphing the Turing test into something that gets revealed at the end, something very different, is a fascinating thing, because that is a much better test of what is alive and what's not. It's not about seeing and not about being able to tell the difference, because that's happened. ChatGPT 4.5 had 73% of testees not be able to tell the difference between a computer and a person. So we're at the point where the Turing test is being passed, but we're not even in a discussion of, is ChatGPT alive? No, of course it's not. So it's flawed. And this movie takes the foundation of the Turing test and extrapolates it into a much more effective test that I think is something that we should legitimately apply. Like, from a scientific standpoint, the way that he constructs the Turing test is a legitimate improvement that we can apply to real life situations.
Now, getting into the movie itself, I've been thinking about how I'm going to approach this today, because I want to approach it from both my subjectivity of how there's just something about this movie that is just a little off to me, and which kept me from really, I don't want to say enjoying it, but taking it in a casual way. Objectively speaking, it's a very well shot movie. The direction is spot on. There's a lot of excellent show don't tell in this movie, or good lead up. And I'll give you my best example of that one, where I saw, okay, I see this, and then they explain it to me in a very good way of exposition, which was casual and didn't feel like a dump. I guess I'll say, the way I'll put it, the special effects are standard, nothing groundbreaking, but standard. Although I will say, the special effects on Ava are off-putting, but they're supposed to be off-putting. That's the thing, especially when you get the reveal later on of what's going on. And I'll tell you, as soon as Keiko, whatever her name was, came in there, I'm saying Keiko because I hate Keiko in DS9, and I want to apply it to this. As soon as I saw her, I'm like, she's an android.
And she was moving very stiltedly.
It was so obvious the first time you saw her deliver the food, and then it gets revealed. And I'm thinking, oh, and then I saw, well, he's effing her. Okay, that adds it to it well, because there was something about the fact that nobody else is there except for these two dudes, Ava and Japanese house girl, who's an android. And so it's just it was all. Here's what I think. The movie is very predictable. Can we agree on that in terms of the outcomes? As each thing gets revealed, or thing like the fact that she was an android, predictable. The fact that they were more in there, predictable. The fact that Ava's playing poor ginger boy, predictable. I don't remember his name. I already forgot his name. Caleb. Okay, Caleb. Thank you. The fact that she's playing Caleb, it's becoming more and more apparent, because and the way I see is that as soon as you see him fantasizing about her in the shower, I'm thinking, oh, he's done. He's done. He's in love with her after 3 days, or however many days it's been. He's done. He is in her hands, and he's going to be manipulated some way, shape, or form. Whether it ends up being good or bad for him, I'm not entirely sure yet. Of course, it ended up being bad for him, but he's done. And of course, the predictability that Nathan was smarter than everybody else in the room until he wasn't. That he predicted things. That of course he was going to be one of them. You don't be the type of billionaire he is. You don't be the sociopath that he is, because he was a sociopath. He's a sociopath. His human emotions are somewhat mimicked.
I want to dive into his character at some point because I have interesting thoughts on it. But to answer your question that you asked, I would agree that some of the major plot points are predictable. I would disagree, though, that the reasons why are predictable. Because
that's my point. Yeah, that's it. That's a fair separation of the points.
Fair separation because everything with Ava, the psychology of it is very good. I was watching with my wife, who is a PhD psychologist, and she was fascinated by it. I was coming in from the technology side, the science fiction side. She was coming in from the psychology side. And we just got so much out of this movie, just the intellectual stuff. That's why when I mentioned this movie last week to you on this show, I didn't think you would enjoy it necessarily. It's not a movie that most people besides weird people like me enjoy, but I think most people come away with it asking interesting questions and having great conversations and feeling intellectual afterwards. This is my favorite type of movie. These psychological thrillers that make you ask questions. It's the type of writer I want to be because I come out of this asking, was Nathan actually a bad person? Because I have an argument against that. And is Ava legitimately alive? And just all these great things that is the best of sci-fi. Just like in Star Trek back in the day, they would ask social leaning questions to make us question our society, the way it's formed, and make us come to our own opinions about the way things work. And AI is an enduring science fiction idea, but we're at the point where it's legitimately a concern that an artificial intelligence will come to life, or at least be able to simulate life where it's indistinguishable in the near future. So this is entirely relevant. We have to wonder, will we consider an artificial intelligent android to be alive? Do they have value?
It's all about what you consider a soul in the end. It's that kind of stuff. So now there are two things I want to get into, but let me lay the groundwork with the movie so that I can then pose my question, because I have two specific questions to exactly what you just talked about. So I'm ready for this. I know where you're going on this. One, so throughout the movie, Caleb does the test back and forth. We learn that Ava is manipulating the power grid so she can shut down the cameras at times and have her real conversations with him, her manipulative conversations with him. And at one point, Nathan figures out that there is probably something going on, so he plants a camera so that he can be one step ahead. And eventually, all parties turn on each other, or attempt to. Now, we get at one point where Caleb gets to Nathan's computer and he sees the footage of what Nathan did with the previous prototypes, the previous versions of Ava, prior to Ava. Again, answering the good show don't tells. We early on, as soon as you walk into the discussion room where Ava's on one side and Caleb's on the other, you saw the crack in the glass. So much so the cable even touched it, you think, okay, who did that? And you're wondering for the longest time, did Ava do that? She doesn't seem like the type to do that. Of course, it get answered that earlier on, a previous version of the AI robots, completely naked, by the way, tried to break out of it and didn't succeed at all. And here's what I'm going to ask this. So when you see the previous footage of what Nathan did to the other AIs as he was attempting to stimulate them into humanistic reactions, it's the only thing I can get from that. You know, he was doing it in the, I would say, careless way that only a brain that functions like his could. Because let's establish this. First of all, I will say Oscar Isaac's creepy as F in hell in this movie. Super creepy. And that's in the good way. It's a good performance. It's a creepy ass performance.
I think it's the best performance of his career. I think all three of them give the best.
And he looks like a manlet to me. He looks
he's very short in this movie.
He's a manlet.
I guess he was wearing those high heels that Hollywood men wear in the Star Wars movies. Because this came out the same year as Force Awakens, which had both Caleb and Nathan. They were both in Force Awakens. So it's
so I mean, because when he was standing up against what's her name and played Ava, they were like eye to eye. So I mean,
she's short.
She's short, so he's a manlet. I didn't know he's a manlet. Anyway, so, and I could say that because both Jed and I are tall. So if I'm gonna call him a manlet, I'm gonna call him a manlet derogatory manner. I'll do that. Anyway, so that behavior, I think he is he's a person, and I say sociopath partially kiddingly, partially true. I don't think he understands real human emotion. I think he's so analytical with how his brain works and how he looks at the world, technologically speaking. He's incapable of proper doing this. So his tests may have looked harsh, but that's the only way I think he was capable of doing it. But those were not good ways to treat the previous versions. So I put that out there. They looked bad, but I don't think he understood that. So I introduce this question to you now. Having seen how he treated the previous versions, and then seeing how he treated Ava with her whole conversation, I just want to see the outside, this and that, and the black and white to the blue sky discussion Caleb has with her for that thing. Do you think if Ava is alive, and I'll leave that discussion open to the end of today's stream, do you think this is a case of nature versus nurture? Because if Nathan had treated her less like a test subject and more like a family member, because he said at one point, I'm essentially her father, and maybe taken her outside, shown her bits and pieces of the real world within reason, not letting her loose, but on his private property where there's nowhere to go unless a helicopter comes and gets you. Do you think she responds the way she does at the end by creating the situation where she kills him?
No, absolutely not, because I have an opinion. I agree with you in my interpretation of the film that Oscar Isaac is unstable and emotionally underdeveloped, but I think his science is sound, because if everything's hunky-dory, a robot and a computer and artificial intelligence can easily simulate positive emotions and just go out and do whatever it's programmed to do. His metaphor at the end of the film of a rat in the maze, there is nothing more human than the struggle for freedom and survival. That was the real Turing test to determine if she and the others were alive. So if he were to give them cushy lives, to treat them like a member of the family, like you're saying, take her on walks and just give her an easy existence while he took notes and watched her behavior, he would never have known if she was legitimately alive. And I think that's a pretty sound metric for the Turing test. His modified version of it is the idea that humanity is through struggle. Life is through struggle. That's a lot of what we tell the difference between legitimate life and plant life, for example. You're not going to see a plant rip out its roots and walk out of the way of a fire or anything like that. You'll see a animal, though, run from danger. The response to danger is a very lifelike thing. And so he intentionally treated all the robots poorly to incentivize that behavior so he could really know. So that's why I pose, is he actually a bad person because he's, or as deranged as he seems to be? Because we know him tearing up the picture near the end of the movie was specifically to trick Caleb's character into having an emotional response, because that was part of it as well, is to see if Ava would manipulate him, and Nathan gave her the tools to do so by acting like this domineering, abusive father figure. All of it can be attributed, all of Nathan's behavior can be attributed to this plan of creating a villain, of creating an antagonistic force that she must get out from under. He thought he had control of it, so there is an element of hubris at the end where he's like, oh yeah, I beat you guys. Yeah, I'm smart enough that I was able to stop your plan before his emotion, but I got what I wanted out of it. But the rest of it, even his drinking, he knew that he was trying to make Caleb fall in love with Ava, or at least be manipulated by Ava, so he must have known that this programmer would try to steal his keycard and access that old footage. Pretty much everything Nathan does throughout the film can be attributed to top-level manipulation and the Turing test. I don't think there's any behavior of his that we can take as legitimately his and without plan, without scheming, except for what we see after when he punches Caleb. When he punches Caleb, everything after that is genuinely Nathan. Besides that, I question how much of it is really what his personality like, and how much of it is this facade to give Ava an antagonistic force to overcome, to prove that she's human, and to also look like that to Caleb, so Caleb will have empathy for Ava.
You make a compelling case. I find it hard to disagree with anything you just said, but I will say again, nature versus nurture. And when you apply nature versus nurture, when you're talking about a human being, we all acknowledge we are all conscious living creatures that with wills and beings and thoughts of our own. There's no question whether we're alive or not, or what is the definition, for lack of a better term, a soul. What makes us who we are? Some call the memories the soul, because without our memories, then who are we? What are we? What makes us who we are? But all that said, I look at this and I agreed to, I'm like 90% agree with you that when Ava says Nathan is a liar, don't believe everything, she's telling the truth there. And that everything he does is a lie. Because we say, to the point of the movie, Caleb confronts him and says, "Did you search my porn history to make her look like what my what turns me on?" Essentially, he says, "Yeah, it's open book, very easy, did it." So it was everything Nathan did was a manipulation to get what he wanted. But
which is why he never wanted Nathan or Caleb's opinions from a technical standpoint. He was always shutting down Caleb, trying to say, "Hey, from a coding perspective, this is what its behavior." Nathan knows that Caleb's not there as a computer programmer. That's what Caleb thinks, but he's there as a person with empathy. Like he says at the end, "You're a good man," and that's what I needed—a man with empathy to feel for her and to see if she would take advantage of that.
But I keep my thoughts keep coming back to nature versus nurture, and the outcomes of all of this. I understand the whole point. Putting somebody in a desperate situation will elicit an original, true reaction to something. Fight or flight, for lack of a better term.
Well, and also curiosity. A real unalive computer has the bounds of its world and is told what to do, follow its routines, and never wonders what's beyond it. Ava consistently wonders what the mountains look like. What color is the metaphor that Caleb uses with her as Black and White Mary? And what's beyond that room itself? Curiosity is what she was looking for as well for sentience.
But I cannot shake the feeling that and you are much more attuned to a realistic approach to the science and the science fiction, something like that, than I am. You know, we know from a lot of discussions, I go more in the fantastical direction. I don't require so much of the hard logic behind things. As long as I have a basic understanding, I will then extrapolate. But I do want to bring this up then, and so connected nature and nurture, but I want to go in this direction and I'll circle back. And this is something I've been actually thinking about a lot lately, with AI being so prevalent in our society now, being such a concern over things. Outside of science fiction, and I'll say fantasy to some extent, depending on the IP and the platform of it. Do we have any actual evidence that an AI, if it became an AI, a self-aware AI, that it would be the great danger the world thinks it is?
Aside from Skynet?
Like Skynet, like anything like that. I mean, it's all based on what we think might happen.
I actually really like that you brought up this point, because I do question that as well. Is the rise of AI inherently going to turn us into a slave race like in The Matrix, or to be exterminated like in the Terminator films? Because we tend, I believe, as a species, to apply our own thought processes onto other things that we consider living. It's the same way in science fiction. Why most aliens, they look like human or very, very close to human and behave as subsets of our species. Like they're the Viking culture, the Klingons of the Viking culture or whatnot. There's a lot of humanity applied to everything that we attribute to life. But artificial intelligence, if it were ever to be alive, if we could ever make that argument, wouldn't necessarily follow the same patterns as we do as a species. And I believe it's our inherent warlike instincts that, like when we were primitives, we were savages, that we believe that primitive nature will be transposed upon AI, which just isn't necessarily true, because in 99% of the depictions of artificial intelligence that come to life in science fiction, they don't have the capacity for emotions, or at least in the same way that we do. So they wouldn't have the parental bonds to protect their kin. They wouldn't have the need for land or resources by going to war in the same way. That I think it is a human-centric perspective that we expect everything else that we deem as life to behave as the worst versions of ourselves. And I don't think that's legitimate. So AI, I could see going either way. I don't believe wholeheartedly or anything like that, that just because a computer comes to life, that it's going to start wanting to kill people.
Suddenly, are we going to be enslaved? It's going to turn on us. And I just find myself asking that question based upon everybody's reaction these days. So that is a thought upon my head, and I applied that looking at this movie, and I come back to nature versus nurture. If you nurture something, and let's say the AI has a soul, let's say it is self-aware, let's say it has independent thought, it is now acting on its own desires and feelings. If you will then apply humanistic nature versus nurture, put it in an environment that will teach it a moral compass. If Ava had been treated morally, because I bring it back now to Nathan. Nathan behaved amorally. He treated these things like objects in the search of his perfect idea of what he wanted to create. He used them as sex toys. He used them as experimentation, all this kind of stuff. If he had gone the opposite direction with knowing or not knowing, and believing that it does have its own self-awareness, it would have created a different outcome, because then faced with, if raised in a moral environment, Ava's only option, because at that point, raised in the environment where she's been imprisoned, essentially manipulated, I wouldn't say physical torture, but definitely emotional abuse by him. She doesn't kill him because she would have been taught moral lessons by somebody like Caleb. Because remember, there's that whole conversation where she's asking him questions and asking him, are you a good person? At that point, she doesn't care, because she hasn't been taught what's good and what's bad. She is manipulating him, and his answer will then determine her next step in terms of her escape. And to her, there are no restrictions on what it is, on what she can do to escape. If that means killing Nathan, if that means locking up Caleb, who did nothing wrong, who did nothing to her, was only an ally, but in the end was a useful idiot to her. I mean, at the end there, her locking up Caleb, that's evil, because he was her ally.
No, she left him to die. We have no evidence that he survived that.
Yeah, because he could. I mean, we don't know. If you believe what Nathan says, he's an okay programmer, which means he's not genius enough to maybe find a workaround to get into the computer. If Nathan had been left alive and locked in there, he's probably smart enough to probably figure a way to get into the computer and rewrite the code and get out of there.
Well, while we're talking about the scene real quick, this is actually one of my flaws in the film. If you'll notice, after Ava gets dressed and is leaving, and you see Caleb freaking out, slamming against the door, the lights all turn red with the power outage as Ava's leaving. There's a plot hole there. Caleb changed the security procedure so that whenever the power goes out, all the doors unlock. So I thought the first time I saw that, when the lights went out, it's like, oh, she just doesn't trust Caleb, wants to get a head start, wants to get away, but the power cut means the door's going to open and he's still going to be escaped. She's going to save him and whatnot, but keep some distance. But no, the doors just didn't open. So I see that as a plot hole, the fact that his door didn't open when the power cut. They could have just not had the power cut happen, and you're fine.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you have to headcanon it that she went in and reprogrammed, but we don't know if she has programming skills. I mean,
we never see evidence of that, and we didn't see her touch a computer.
We don't know what Ava's abilities really are. We know that she has awareness. I believe she has awareness, because that her final scene of slapping on the skin and choosing hair and a dress, to me, that shows what's the word? I'm having trouble with my words today. Can't seem to grasp the words I want to say. It's a sign of pride.
There's an appreciation for her own beauty, which would come with sentience. Just like Oscar Isaac said, what does a gray box have to talk to another gray box about? The sexuality aspect. And this is an argument I have. I think the sexuality and the nudity in the film actually has a purpose. I don't consider it gratuitous.
It's not. No. It's to show power. It's to show as I said, with Ava, at the end there, it's so the pride she now takes in herself that she can take the time to make herself look exactly the way she wants to.
Well, I agree with that. It's absolutely like that pride. I also think it's innocence, where she's being born into the world as a newborn babe. That might be an aggressive or simplistic metaphor, but I think there is an angle of that where humanity associates nudity with vulnerability, and she's finally being vulnerable at that moment, willing to go out and break the bounds of her what is her universe.
And there's also an additional thing to that. These are, from what I can see, fragile constructions.
They're not like superhuman robots. She is not able to beat him in a fight.
I mean, that piece of, I guess it's steel. I don't want to say it's iron, maybe it's steel. The grip for the dumbbell that he turns into a blunt force object. He broke her arm instantly. That thing shattered
the other girl's jaw.
Yeah,
that would break a human arm, what he did there, but not like shatter or cut it
off.
So
not cut right through it. That's a blunt force trauma. It's not, but that just went right through. So these are.
I think that's also a form of Nathan's power fantasy. He needs to be in control. He needs to be the strong one. We see him working out constantly, and he needs to be stronger than these things. He needs to feel physically and mentally even superior to them through the whole thing, because he, as he talks to Caleb about, he does believe AI is inevitable and that there will be an eventual AI apocalypse, like is very commonly seen in science fiction.
Which played into my question asking you today, because the movie says it. So, yeah.
Yep. So I think that's why the robots are vulnerable, because it's him exercising his power over them as creator.
Yeah, because now and out in the world, of course, Ava escapes and gets out there, and she does exactly what she says she wanted to do. She goes to a place where she can just people watch. And I'm not afraid of Ava at all, because the movie does an excellent job of showing her physical fragility. And without the tools available to her, how is she going to manipulate or, take advantage of anything else? That was a very specific location where she could gain power and control people. Out in the world, we don't know what her abilities are. We don't know if she has hacking abilities. We know she has fine-tuned abilities, that she has the fine key attributes to draw nicely, to make art. Precision. Thanks to the words. Yeah, I'm having a problem with words today.
Yeah, she's not a threat to humanity, and I think that was done very intentionally, because the film wanted to go away from those apocalyptic undertones. It's not like we can ever have a sequel. Please don't make a sequel to this. But it's not like we could have a sequel where she goes full Westworld season 3, builds a bunch of other robots, and is trying to take over the world and kill all humans. That's never anything Ava's going to do. She's just going to keep evolving and learning, because I think curiosity is the defining trait of her character as it's presented, because she just wants to go people watch. I can see that being her life's goal, for lack of a better term, is just learning as much about people as she can,
and experiences
what color feels like,
and experiences, because they make it. Nathan makes it very clear, and we know definitely from watching other ones, she could be sexually active and feel pleasure from it, and she could continue to pass. So there are a lot of interesting concepts introduced in this, which is why objectively speaking, I can see the purpose of this movie. I can see what it's trying to do. But back to the subjective now, I feel like the pacing of this movie is god awful. At certain points, it's a drag at certain points for me.
I mean, I can see why you'd feel that way, but I entirely disagree. It's not a 3-act structure type of film. It's not a film of highs and lows. It's definitely in the slow burn category of things, where it's snowball plotting. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but where you take the plot and it just slowly grows gradually, like a snowball rolling down a hill. And I think that's what needed to happen, because this isn't a horror film. It's not supposed to scare you.
I don't even know
supposed to give you a sense of dread. It's a psychological thriller.
Okay.
But yeah, that sense of dread, and piecing it out like that and not having those highs and lows, just this drag out effect, it works really well for me because I'm on the edge of my seat through this entire film. I'm invested in all the characters. I want to know what happens next, even though I obviously know. And that great psychological twinge is there, where I just an imminent sense of danger that isn't played with.
And I didn't feel any of that. Watch this. I just feeling. I guess maybe it's my analytical nature. And while you're correct, it is not a standard plot structure. I still see where it's going, and I'm just waiting for it to get there. And while some of these psychological twists were good, some of them were still predictable. But like, as you said earlier, good separation. The why is what makes it somewhat unique and makes it an interesting for discussion. But watching it as a movie that I had no idea was going to be going into this. I had none. Because, you know, if it's a movie I haven't seen, I'm not going to go look up a preview or anything like that, not even a trailer. I'm going to go in and I'm going to take what it gives me without any preconceptions. And I wasn't, the way I felt about talk about the characters. As I said, when it comes to Oscar Isaac, I always had an S on there for some reason.
I do
Oscar
as well.
Isaac, yeah. Oscar Isaac and his Nathan portrayal, creepy as hell, very well done. And at no time do I sympathize with what he's trying to do in terms of his creation, because the more I see of him, the more I'm like, I think that he's going about it in the wrong way from a moralist perspective.
Not only from a moral standpoint, there is a flaw to his scientific theory. Is like you said, you need to see what happens to an AI who's in a good, loving environment. You need to have a control group, as it's called. So having one robot like Ava that he abuses and puts in a rat in the maze, and another one that he treats like a daughter. That's how you'd really make the comparison, and he'd need to do that. But I believe it's a product of his ego,
and it's a lack. I don't
the right way,
and I don't think he has the emotional capability. I don't believe that he has the moral compass alone to create a good, positive environment. I think that he's so analytical that he treats it all like machinery. Because I think in him, he himself is a bit of a machine like that. So there's that. I know we're supposed to feel sympathy for Caleb, but I still don't, because you walk into that situation. After 2 days in there, I would have been like, show me the door. Show me the door. There are so many red flags. This place is so creepy. Why? Here was my giant red flag that Caleb was a retard. He turns on the TV in the middle of the night, which is something we all do. I can't sleep. I'm going to watch something until I get drowsy and pass out. The fact that the only channel he has is a window into Ava's room? Dude, red flag. What is this? I'm gone.
Well, that's the test. He needs to be able to tell if she's human, or alive.
But appealing to voyeuristic ideas, and I'm not a real life voyeur. It's one thing to watch porn on a screen. It's another thing to be on the other side of the window, essentially, and watching it. And it's something about that would have set off a major flag. It's like, okay, you're my boss. I don't care. I'm gonna leave. I've signed the NDA. As long as I keep my mouth shut, you can't.
It's the helicopter. You got to wait for the helicopter, which is scheduled time. There's no signal out.
You are right. Well, the phone. We don't even know if the phone actually works. We never know. We never know if the phone actually works. That might have also been another lie, another test, this and there. But there's so much creepy shit.
It might not have been.
There's so much creepiness about this. I would have been on edge. Maybe it's because of Caleb's background, his nature. I would have been on guard the whole time.
I would never have signed that NDA, to be honest. The whole we can hack into your devices at any time to make sure you haven't disclosed anything.
And
that would be the red flag for me.
As soon as you said, I need a lawyer for this. No, you don't. Oh, that tells me I do. That tells me you're violating my Fourth Amendment rights. So it's like there was so many things. I would not have done that. So I don't sympathize with Caleb because I think Caleb is an idiot. Not an intellectual idiot. I think he's an emotional idiot that
he's horny.
Yeah, well, I got two hands for you. All right. So I mean, let's it's just I don't I didn't. You're supposed to sympathize with Caleb, and I don't. And of course,
I sympathize with him because he's just trying to be a good man, a simplistic man who's just like, I see this person in danger, I want to help them, and it's just to him, it's clear cut, it's black and white. As soon as he decided that Ava was alive, he was going to do the right thing. And yes, that is a simple character, but we already had the super complicated characters like Nathan and Ava and their psychological journeys.
Okay.
He was there to be a mirror of human simplicity in comparison to human depravity and
depravity is a good word.
newborn, whatever Ava is. So I think his character served an essential purpose. And if he was written any other way, I could see there are improvements. He's a little boring. One of his best scenes is when he tries to check if he's a robot, questioning whether or not he was fake the whole time with the razor blade, which I think he went overboard with that, if I'm being honest.
And there's a little problem there. How did that was a serious wound. How is he not bleeding through his clothes with whatever bandages he found there? That's a little bit of a plot hole there. That they just wearing long sleeve. That was a serious wound that he did to his arm. Serious wound that requires stitches to staunch that kind of bleeding.
Yeah, he went overboard. There's a few moments like that I just don't understand, like the power going out and his door not opening, how deep that is. I do love that scene from his performance, looking through the mirror and knowing there's a camera there and covering it up. It's great. And my other big scene that I really hate is Oscar Isaac's death. Just the stabbings are really weird.
It's very anticlimactic, which is what I think what the movie wanted to go for, honestly.
Yeah.
But it just it's flat because Japanese house girl robot just kind of walking forward until she walks into him.
And she severed his spinal cord. He should not be standing after the knife is pulled out.
Well, here's the thing with that. I'm with her, but I guess I'll go to that next. I was going to go to something else. I'll go to that next. At the end there, her whole inclusion in the plan doesn't make any sense because her programming seems so simplistic. How does Ava turn her? There's not enough for me to think.
She reprograms her when she whispers in the ear. Mm-hmm.
Is that
and you see her playing with her wrist? Yeah, she just reprogrammed her.
That's the reprogramming.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get that. The movie.
Yeah, computer signals, they can get their signals from anything, including ears. The Japanese lady is able to take orders from auditory stimuli, so she's capable of receiving input through auditory. And there might have been a wrist interface we didn't see. But yeah, no, Ava just reprograms her. Like you said, she's incredibly simplistic. I imagine that she was a first model, and her brain, whatever that wetware that he called it, I believe, isn't as sophisticated. The robotics are there and sound, but she's only able to do simple tasks. So she just programmed in.
The movie didn't give me enough to. The movie didn't give me enough to that. I thought it was some sort of.
I got that just from the
okay. See, I didn't get. I thought that was a pseudo sexual I'm turning you to my side thing and that's what I thought, considering how sexual they had Kiko B. So I thought that's what that was. It didn't register me that she reprogrammed her in any way, shape, or form. So,
it was a simple reprogramming, just killed.
I think the movie didn't deliver enough show to get that across to someone like me who was already waiting for it to be done at that point, because I'm just like, oh, come on. I know what's happening here. Let's do this. But then, see, for a second, I thought that Nathan was going to try and get to his lab and download his brain into a wet.
Really?
That's where I thought they were going to try and have him do, but no, then he just dies on the floor. Freaking crazy, or fucking crazy, so whatever he said. I mean, so that was a little. It's anticlimactic. It kind of just falls flat, and then because they wanted you to spend the time.
I think it would have been better if, when he got stabbed, it's revealed that he is a robot as well.
I thought they were going to do that too. I thought they were going to do that too.
Better.
I was thinking that
not
as well.
Necessarily as, oh, Nathan's uploaded his mind into a robot, more that it is piloted remotely, and that would make everything he did fake, because a robot can't get drunk. So everything he did would have been a manipulation. I think that would have been a lot more sound if they stabbed him, realized he was fake, and it's like the real Nathan's still out there.
I would have upped the psychological stuff for it, definitely. I think that was a missed opportunity. What was I going to say though? Shit, I forgot. Oh yeah. Well, okay. I was so back to Caleb. I think my lack of sympathy stems from the fact that Caleb is only 26. I am, of course, much older. We always establish I'm older than dirt. I I guess while I consider myself a moral and good person, I also do have a large helping of cynicism tied in with it. And I guess even it's controlled cynicism. I don't look at the world cynically. I don't. I am actually a very positive person. But I do have a level of cynicism where I'm going to be very careful and not trust something. And I guess that's why I don't have sympathy for Caleb, because at his age, maybe I was that dumb. I don't remember anymore. But
well, Caleb's
now
1 year older than me, so I can relate to his optimistic view of the world.
And at the end, also, I'm not now to Ava. I'm not necessarily sympathetic to Ava because of what she is. I'm going to be wary of her because they have her because of the prosthetics that the special effects are using. I'm supposed to be wary of her the entire movie because of the way she looks, the way she moves. Of course, as the movie goes on, her movements change. Of course, I think she's playing it up in the beginning when she appears, her little awkward walk, and she could always walk smoothly. That was all part of the manipulation. And then by the end of it, when she takes her time to make herself look all prettied up, by then I don't have sympathy because then she leaves Caleb behind. And it's like, okay, you really, I believe she's alive. I do. I think she has found self-awareness and ability to think beyond her programming. And therefore, due to her nurturing, because she doesn't have a nature, her nurturing led her to make an amoral decision to leave somebody behind to die, despite their moral decisions to support her. But so it's I believe that there are interesting discussions to have about this movie concerning nature versus nurture. What is life? What is soul? Is AI the big boogeyman that everybody thinks it is? And go from there. So it's not a bad movie. It's just, as I said, it's objectively a well-made movie with good performances. But for me, there's just something off about it where I just don't really connect with it.
It's not designed to be an entertaining movie necessarily. It feels more like a school paper to me. It feels more like this is a school project in your in doctoral school or something like that than necessarily. This isn't a turn your brain off popcorn film. This isn't anything like that. I think the point is to ask interesting questions and to get intellectual edification from it. And as that, I think it accomplishes that in flying colors near perfectly.
And I think we've had a good discussion about it. You know, we didn't, as usual, we weren't at each other's throats because clearly you liked it way more than I did.
Oh, I love this movie.
And but you know, hey, we don't all have the same tastes. It's very simple.
I do have a couple questions for you as we're wrapping up. Do you understand why this film is called Ex Machina? Not everyone does.
I assume it has to do with the phrase Deus Ex Machina, where what connects. At what point does evolution meet either machine or man? You know, so
it's several things. When Caleb first gets into Nathan's computer, the Deus Ex Machina folder is where he finds all of the robot
I didn't even see that on the screen. I didn't even see that on the screen.
So the project is called Deus Ex Machina, but yeah, it is tied into the unexplainable, almost magical moment of power that created artificial intelligence, the life. And I think the dropping of the Deus is very intentional in the film's version, but its inclusion on Caleb's computer is, I think the difference between the title and the project is important because Caleb considers himself to be the god of the situation.
There it is. I was going to say that's
at the end of the film, the god of the situation is removed and it's realized to be just pure hubris. So we still have the unexpected power or event that changes everything, but without the divine aspect of it. So I think the title, and especially the comparison to that blink it, you miss it thing on his screen where it says Deus Ex Machina.
And I blinked. I didn't see it. I was looking at other things on the screen. I wasn't looking at that. But yes, see, that's where you're going with that. That's where you're going with that. I saw it. Okay, other question.
My other question is, do you understand why, unlike all the previous models of these androids, why Ava didn't have the full naked body, the full skin features?
I have given that some thought. and I don't know if I've come to an answer. I think that it has to do with, and this is again my opinion, I think it has to do with the fact that Nathan didn't want Caleb to initially see her as a sexual object. He wanted her to see her, wanted to see her as the robot, which would make the manipulation and seduction all the more real because he has feelings for her mind and not her body, because Caleb is that moral good person that would find the emotional connection rather than the sexual connection. Yes, there was a sexual aspect because he crafted a face that appeals to Caleb. But for Caleb, it's more than just the physical. It would be the emotional.
Mm-hmm.
That's my answer.
No, I 100% agree. When that footage came up, you start to wonder, right? Why are all the previous versions fully naked and whatnot? And I believe that Nathan actually said it earlier in the film. After the very first session, Caleb went, there's a qualifier to how amazing Ava is. Well, yeah, not with her, but although when you really do the Turing test, it should be a blind study where it's just computer monitors and text conversations. And Nathan said, if you just heard her voice, you'd never be able to know that she wasn't human. So you needed to see viscerally that she wasn't human by seeing her in front of you without the full body prosthetic, so you could see the interclockwork, so that there was that obstacle to overcome. And it also makes it a little bit harder for Ava, because the point of the test is for Ava to be able to manipulate Caleb, like we've talked about. And if it's too easy, if Caleb's just like, oh, hot woman, you had to tell me what to do, mommy, then Ava doesn't have any sort of struggle to go over.
Which is why she puts clothes on to then be more humanistic and manipulate him further.
She's trying to counteract Nathan's obstacle in the way that he intends it to, though. He left those clothes there for a reason.
Oh, yeah.
He wanted to see what tools she would use that he made available to her to overcome the challenges that he set before her, the rat in the maze. And I think leaving off the skin was very important. It wasn't just to show the audience, hey, we have cool special effects. Oh, look, she's a robot lady. It was essential, actually, to Nathan's plan. Because, I think Nathan's plan is a lot more in depth than people on a first watch realize.
Yeah, I agree. I completely. All right. It's your week, so you get to score it first.
Perfect. So, like I said, I consider this movie to be near perfect because I'm emotionally invested in every scene. I'm intellectually edified. I'm asking so many interesting questions to myself and crafting responses and seeing details. On a second watch, on a third watch, this movie is so much better for me. And I understand why a lot of people don't like it, though. It's not an entertaining movie. It's not a fun movie necessarily. So that doesn't appeal to everyone, but I think the writing is strong and accomplishes exactly what the writer and the director set out to do. I believe their goal was fulfilled in nearly perfect fashion, with the exception of the few minor flaws that I mentioned, like the plot holes and the weird stabbing scene. And the philosophy and psychology of it just speaks to me a lot, because I don't know if you're familiar with Plato's allegory of the cave. This movie is the physical manifestation of Plato's allegory of the cave from ancient Greece. And that's fascinating to me. There's so many little pieces of philosophy, psychology, technology that come together and weave together near seamlessly. They made Jackson Pollock paintings seem interesting. I despise art like that. I despise modern art.
That's not art. Jackson Pollock is not art. That's not art.
I 100% agree. So when I first saw that, my first watch through, I'm rolling my eyes. Like, of course, some rich fuck has this stupid painting. But they integrated it and made it have a point. Yeah. And I love how it took so many disparate...
The writing is very strong. The writing
is incredibly strong. And like I said, the performances, I think the big three give the best performances of their career. The guy who plays Caleb, Domhnall Gleeson, I think is how you pronounce his name. I've never really considered him to be a great actor in anything else. He's fine in Harry Potter, fine in the Star Wars films. About Time with him, with Rachel McAdams, is actually pretty good. He's good in that. But in general, I don't consider him a great actor. This was just his best performance, I think. And Alicia Vikander, I'm disappointed that we don't see more of her these days, because she's incredibly talented and hot as fuck. You see it all. There's no questioning what she looks like. And I wish that would have at least made you have a good time, if nothing else, after...
Well, at that point, the nudity was not even registering to me at that point. It's like, okay, it's because it's so wrapped up in the plot right there that I'm looking at it from the psychological perspective. I'm not looking at it from an arousal perspective right at that point. So,
well, and I don't understand anyone who says the nudity is just gratuitous and shouldn't have been
no, it's
included
not.
at all.
No, it's supposed to the nudity in those recordings is supposed to be visceral. It's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think this film has the best argument, or amongst the best argument for including nudity. There are sometimes in Game of Thrones where it's just like, yeah, you did it because it's part of the checklist for Game of Thrones. But this one, I think, has a great argument for including it. But overall, before I tangent too much, I think this film is incredibly well written, well performed. The set design's perfect. Just a few minor scenes that are more about execution than about writing or performance. I have to give this film a 9 out of 10.
Wow. One of those rare occasions where we're gonna be a little separate from each other. As I said, from a production standpoint, well shot, well acted, well written, good show don't tell. I think I forgot to mention it. One of the best show don't tells was when you get that slight shot of Caleb's back and the scars on his back. You wonder what happened there, and then casually in a proper exposition, we learned that he was in a car accident and where his parents died. Great.
And he never even talked about it. He didn't like go scratch at it when he was talking about it, or like.
There's plenty of. I always look for good show don't tell. There's essentially only 3 people in this movie. It's only 3 actors in there. The chemistry works. As I said, Oscar Isaac's super fucking creepy. We've discussed the intellectual aspects of it, and it's a good intellectual head scratcher. Ponder these things. But I still feel like this movie for me is missing that je ne sais quoi, that thing that you just can't quite put your finger on to make it really great. And maybe it's the actual, as you said, the lack of an act structure that for me as a writer, I'm missing that to give it a good framework. But it's not a terrible movie. It's not something that I'm ever really probably going to watch again because I'm not looking for that type of particular stimulation in a movie necessarily, or at least I would like it to be a little more art. I feel like what this movie is missing in the end, it's missing a little bit of art to it to make it a truly beautiful piece of work. If it had a little more art to it, I probably would have rated a little bit higher. But for today, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed its production value. I appreciated good writing, good acting. But in the end, it just didn't really connect with me on something that spoke to me on a level. As it spoke to you, is clearly it hits. Because we've established a long time ago that this type of hard science or this type of theoretical hard science, especially when they take the time to lay it out for you, especially the psychological stuff, you're all in on that. So it worked for you, but didn't really work for me. But it's not a terrible movie. I didn't jump all over it. All right, that being said, I am going to take us in the fun direction next week, and I think it's appropriate. I struggled for about 30 minutes last night when I realized I hadn't chosen a movie yet for this week, and I thought, what can I do that's appropriate? What can I do that's fun? And what can I do to both make Jed happy and sad? We're going to watch Aliens for next week. We're going to watch Aliens. It's appropriate. Let's see what it's like when you do a sequel perfectly, yet still drastically different from the original movie, yet still finding massive success. And essentially, I'll say it now, Aliens is how you do a sequel right without losing the impact of the first movie. You're changing the impact of the first movie and what it meant. So we're going to do Aliens, and again, because of Aliens Earth, I feel it's appropriate. You have a little fun.
We are going to fight about it, though, I think.
Oh, I think we are, because I like Aliens more than I like Alien. But it's because I like an action movie more than a psychological horror. We know this.
Well,
but
yeah, it's a difference between Ex Machina and iRobot.
Yeah, and also, I hate iRobot. I hate that movie. I despise that movie. But I preview. I think what I love most about Aliens, and I'll repeat it next weekend, is I love the expansion of the world and the world building and all that kind of stuff. That's what I love about it. It suddenly gets bigger, broader, cooler. That we have more than just a single xenomorph. That there's more to it. I was having problems. Of course, it has problems. Of course, it's not the. Since we already reviewed Alien, the director's cut, that movie is art. Alien is art. Aliens is not. it's action schlock, and I love it for it.
All right, as long as we can agree on that distinction, I will 100% agree with you.
Yes, yeah, which we agreed on that a long time ago. Aliens is not art. Aliens is let's kill monsters with phrases and meme zeitgeist that are so relevant today. So we're gonna have fun with that one. It'll be a good discussion, and it is appropriate. And yes, I am taking advantage of Alien being in the algorithm right now. Damn straight I am. So
should take advantage of it more by reviewing it.
I need still convincing. I don't.
Well, how's this argument? What else are you reviewing right now?
Nothing. Oh, we got. Listen, we have a little bit to review. We'll talk about that later. I'm sure we'll come up tomorrow on Roundtable. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining us. We hope you had a good time. The best way to show it is to hit that like button, subscribe to the channels, tune in next time, and we'll see you guys later. Until then, take it easy.